Hello, and welcome to the Narrative Reading Bible podcast. My name is Jessica. Today, we continue reading the Book of Deuteronomy with pages 295 to 306 of the Narrative Reading Bible, Book 1, Past the Promise. The reading is from the Berean Standard Bible translation. Enjoy.
The Levitical priests, indeed the whole tribe of Levi, shall have no portion or inheritance with Israel. They are to eat the offerings made by fire to the Lord. That is their inheritance. Although they have no inheritance among their brothers, the Lord is their inheritance, as He promised them. This shall be the priest's share from the people who offer a sacrifice, whether a bull or a sheep. The priests are to be given the shoulder, the jowls, and the stomach. You are to give them the first fruits of your grain, new wine, and oil, and the first wool sheared from your flock. For the Lord, your God, has chosen Levi and his sons out of all your tribes to stand and minister in his name for all time. Now if a Levite moves from any town of residence throughout Israel and comes in all earnestness to the place the Lord will choose, then he shall serve in the name of the Lord his God, like all his fellow Levites who stand there before the Lord. They shall eat equal portions, even though he has received money from the sale of his father's estate. When you enter the land that the Lord your God is giving you, do not imitate the detestable ways of the nations there. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices his son or daughter in the fire, practices divination or conjury, interprets omens, practices sorcery, casts spells, consults a medium or spiritist, or inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is detestable to the Lord, and because of these detestable things, the Lord your God is driving out the nations before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. Though these nations which you will dispossess listen to conjurers and diviners, the Lord your God has not permitted you to do so. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your brothers. You must listen to him. This is what you asked of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, "Let us not hear the voice of the Lord our God, or see this great fire any more, so that we will not die." Then the Lord said to me, "They have spoken well. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell them everything I command him. And I will hold accountable anyone who does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks in my name. But if any prophet dares to speak a message in my name that I have not commanded him to speak, or to speak in the name of other gods, that prophet must be put to death." You may ask in your heart, how can we recognize a message that the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, and the message does not come to pass or come true, that is a message the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him. When the Lord your God has cut off the nations whose land he is giving you, and when you have driven them out and settled in their cities and houses, then you are to set apart for yourselves 3 cities within the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess. You are to build roads for yourselves and divide into 3 regions the land that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, so that any manslayer can flee to these cities. Now this is the situation regarding the manslayer who flees to one of these cities to save his life, having killed his neighbor accidentally, without intending to harm him. If he goes into the forest with his neighbor to cut timber and swings his axe to chop down a tree, but the blade flies off the handle and strikes and kills his neighbor, he may flee to one of these cities to save his life. Otherwise, the avenger of blood might pursue the manslayer in a rage, overtake him if the distance is great, and strike him dead though he did not deserve to die, since he did not intend any harm. This is why I am commanding you to set apart for yourselves 3 cities. And if the Lord your God enlarges your territory, as he swore to your fathers, and gives you all the land he promised them. And if you carefully keep all these commandments I am giving you today, loving the Lord your God, and walking in his ways at all times, then you are to add 3 more cities to these 3. Thus innocent blood will not be shed in the land that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, so that you will not be guilty of bloodshed. If, however, a man hates his neighbor and lies in wait, attacks him and kills him, and then flees to one of these cities, the elders of his city must send for him, bring him back, and hand him over to the avenger of blood to die. You must show him no pity. You are to purge from Israel the guilt of shedding innocent blood, that it may go well with you. You must not move your neighbor's boundary marker, which was set up by your ancestors to mark the inheritance you shall receive in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess. A lone witness is not sufficient to establish any wrongdoing or sin against a man, regardless of what offense he may have committed. A matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If a false witness testifies against someone, accusing him of a crime, both parties to the dispute must stand in the presence of the Lord before the priests and judges who are in office at that time. The judges shall investigate thoroughly, and if the witness is proven to be a liar who has falsely accused his brother, you must do to him as he intended to do to his brother. So you must purge the evil from among you. Then the rest of the people will hear and be afraid, and they will never again do anything so evil among you. You must show no pity. Life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, and foot for foot. When you go out to war against your enemies and see horses, chariots, and an army larger than yours, do not be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, is with you. When you are about to go into battle, the priest is to come forward and address the army, saying to them, "Hear, O Israel, today you are going into battle with your enemies. Do not be faint-hearted or afraid. Do not be alarmed or terrified because of them. For the Lord, your God, goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to give you the victory." Furthermore, the officers are to address the army, saying, "Has any man built a new house and not dedicated it? Let him return home, or he may die in battle and another man dedicate it. Has any man planted a vineyard and not begun to enjoy its fruit? Let him return home, or he may die in battle and another man enjoy its fruit. Has any man become pledged to a woman and not married her? Let him return home, or he may die in battle and another man marry her." Then the officers shall speak further to the army, saying, "Is any man afraid or faint-hearted? Let him return home, so that the hearts of his brothers will not melt like his own." When the officers have finished addressing the army, they are to appoint commanders to lead it. When you approach a city to fight against it, you are to make an offer of peace. If they accept your offer of peace and open their gates, all the people there will become forced laborers to serve you. But if they refuse to make peace with you and wage war against you, lay siege to that city. When the Lord your God has delivered it into your hand, you must put every male to the sword. But the women, children, livestock, and whatever else is in the city, all its spoil, you may take as plunder, and you shall use the spoil of your enemies that the Lord your God gives you. This is how you are to treat all the cities that are far away from you and do not belong to the nations nearby. However, in the cities of the nations that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, you must not leave alive anything that breathes, for you must devote them to complete destruction: the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that they cannot teach you to do all the detestable things they do for their gods, and so cause you to sin against the Lord your God. When you lay siege to a city for an extended time while fighting against it to capture it, you must not destroy its trees by putting an axe to them, because you can eat their fruit. You must not cut them down. Are the trees of the field human, that you should besiege them? But you may destroy the trees that you know do not produce fruit. Use them to build siege works against the city that is waging war against you, until it falls. If one is found slain, lying in a field in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess, and it is not known who killed him, your elders and judges must come out and measure the distance from the victim to the neighboring cities. Then the elders of the city nearest the victim shall take a heifer that has never been yoked or used for work. Bring the heifer to a valley with running water that has not been plowed or sown, and break its neck there by the stream. And the priests, the sons of Levi, shall come forward, for the Lord your God has chosen them to serve him, and pronounce blessings in his name, and to give a ruling in every dispute and case of assault. Then all the elders of the city, nearest the victim, shall wash their hands by the stream over the heifer whose neck has been broken, and they shall declare, Our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it. Accept this atonement, O Lord, for your people Israel, whom you have redeemed, and do not hold the shedding of innocent blood against them. And the bloodshed will be atoned for, so you shall purge from among you the guilt of shedding innocent blood, since you have done what is right in the eyes of the Lord. When you go to war against your enemies and the Lord your God delivers them into your hand, and you take them captive, if you see a beautiful woman among them, and you desire her, and want to take her as your wife, then you shall bring her into your house. She must shave her head, trim her nails, and put aside the clothing of her captivity. After she has lived in your house a full month, and mourned her father and mother, you may have relations with her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. And if you are not pleased with her, you are to let her go wherever she wishes. But you must not sell her for money, or treat her as a slave, since you have dishonored her. If a man has 2 wives, one beloved and the other unloved, and both bear him sons, but the unloved wife has the firstborn son, when that man assigns his inheritance to his sons, he must not appoint the son of the beloved wife as the firstborn over the son of the unloved wife. Instead, he must acknowledge the firstborn, the son of his unloved wife, by giving him a double portion of all that he has. For that son is the firstfruits of his father's strength. The right of the firstborn belongs to him. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son, who does not obey his father and mother, and does not listen to them when disciplined, his father and mother are to lay hold of him and bring him to the elders of his city, to the gate of his hometown, and say to the elders, This son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He does not obey us. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of his city will stone him to death. So you must purge the evil from among you, and all Israel will hear and be afraid. If a man has committed a sin worthy of death, and he is executed, and you hang his body on a tree, you must not leave the body on the tree overnight, but you must be sure to bury him that day, because anyone who is hung on a tree is under God's curse. You must not defile the land that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. If you see your brother's ox or sheep straying, you must not ignore it. Be sure to return it to your brother. If your brother does not live near you, or if you do not know who he is, you are to take the animal home to remain with you until your brother comes seeking it. Then you can return it to him, and you shall do the same for his donkey, his cloak, or anything your brother has lost, and you have found. You must not ignore it. If you see your brother's donkey or ox fallen on the road, you must not ignore it. You must help him lift it up. A woman must not wear men's clothing, and a man must not wear women's clothing. For whoever does these things is detestable to the Lord your God. If you come across a bird's nest with chicks or eggs, either in a tree or on the ground along the road, and the mother is sitting on the chicks or eggs, you must not take the mother along with the young. You may take the young, but be sure to let the mother go, so that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days. If you build a new house, You are to construct a railing around your roof, so that you do not bring blood guilt on your house if someone falls from it. Do not plant your vineyard with two types of seed. If you do, the entire harvest will be defiled, both the crop you plant and the fruit of your vineyard. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey yoked together. Do not wear clothes of wool and linen woven together. You are to make tassels on the four corners of the cloak you wear. Suppose a man marries a woman, has relations with her, and comes to hate her, and he then accuses her of shameful conduct and gives her a bad name, saying, "I married this woman and had relations with her, but I discovered she was not a virgin." Then the young woman's father and mother shall bring the proof of her virginity to the city elders at the gate, and say to the elders, "I gave my daughter in marriage to this man, but he has come to hate her. And now he has accused her of shameful conduct, saying, I discovered that your daughter was not a virgin, but here is the proof of her virginity." And they shall spread out the cloth before the city elders. Then the elders of that city shall take the man and punish him. They are also to fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them to the young woman's father, because this man has given a virgin of Israel a bad name, and she shall remain his wife. He must not divorce her as long as he lives. If, however, this accusation is true, and no proof of the young woman's virginity can be found, she shall be brought to the door of her father's house, and there the men of her city will stone her to death. For she has committed an outrage in Israel by being promiscuous in her father's house. So you must purge the evil from among you. If a man is found lying with another man's wife, both the man who slept with her and the woman must die. You must purge the evil from Israel. If there is a virgin pledged in marriage to a man, and another man encounters her in the city and sleeps with her, you must take both of them out to the gate of that city and stone them to death, the young woman because she did not cry out in the city, and the man because he has violated his neighbor's wife. So you must purge the evil from among you. But if the man encounters a betrothed woman in the open country, and he overpowers her and lies with her, only the man who has done this must die. Do nothing to the young woman, because she has committed no sin worthy of death. This case is just like one in which a man attacks his neighbor and murders him. When he found her in the field, the betrothed woman cried out, but there was no one to save her. If a man encounters a virgin who is not pledged in marriage, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are discovered, then the man who lay with her must pay the young woman's father 50 shekels of silver, and she must become his wife, because he has violated her. He must not divorce her as long as he lives. A man is not to marry his father's wife, so that he will not dishonor his father's marriage bed. No man with crushed or severed genitals may enter the assembly of the Lord. No one of illegitimate birth may enter the assembly of the Lord, nor may any of his descendants, even to the 10th generation. No Ammonite or Moabite or any of their descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation. For they did not meet you with food and water on your way out of Egypt, and they hired Balaam son of Beor from Pethor in Aram Naharaim to curse you. Yet the Lord your God would not listen to Balaam, and the Lord your God turned the curse into a blessing for you, because the Lord your God loves you. You are not to seek peace or prosperity from them as long as you live. Do not despise an Edomite, for he is your brother. Do not despise an Egyptian, because you lived as a foreigner in his land. The 3rd generation of children born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. When you are encamped against your enemies, then you shall keep yourself from every wicked thing. If any man among you becomes unclean because of a nocturnal emission, he must leave the camp and stay outside. When evening approaches, he must wash with water, and when the sun sets, he may return to the camp. You must have a place outside the camp to go and relieve yourself, and you must have a digging tool in your equipment, so that when you relieve yourself, you can dig a hole and cover up your excrement. For the Lord, your God, walks throughout your camp to protect you and deliver your enemies to you. Your camp must be holy, lest he see anything unclean among you and turn away from you. Do not return a slave to his master if he has taken refuge with you. Let him live among you wherever he chooses, in the town of his pleasing. Do not oppress him. No daughter or son of Israel is to be a shrine prostitute. You must not bring the wages of a prostitute, whether female or male, into the house of the Lord your God to fulfill any vow, because both are detestable to the Lord your God. Do not charge your brother interest on money, food, or any other type of loan. You may charge a foreigner interest, but not your brother, so that the Lord your God may bless you in everything to which you put your hand in the land that you are entering to possess. If you make a vow to the Lord your God, do not be slow to keep it, because he will surely require it of you, and you will be guilty of sin. But if you refrain from making a vow, you will not be guilty of sin. Be careful to follow through on what comes from your lips, because you have freely vowed to the Lord your God with your own mouth. When you enter your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, but you must not put any in your basket. When you enter your neighbor's grain field, you may pluck the heads of grain with your hand, but you must not put a sickle to your neighbor's grain. If a man marries a woman, but she becomes displeasing to him because he finds some indecency in her, he may write her a certificate of divorce, hand it to her, and send her away from his house. If, after leaving his house, she goes and becomes another man's wife, and the second man hates her, writes her a certificate of divorce, hands it to her, and sends her away from his house, or if he dies, then the husband, who divorced her, first, may not remarry her after she has been defiled, for that is an abomination to the Lord. You must not bring sin upon the land that the Lord, your God, is giving you as an inheritance. If a man is newly married, he must not be sent to war or be pressed into any duty. For 1 year, he is free to stay at home and bring joy to the wife he has married. Do not take a pair of millstones, or even an upper millstone, as security for a debt, because that would be taking one's livelihood as security. If a man is caught kidnapping one of his Israelite brothers, whether he treats him as a slave or sells him, the kidnapper must die, so you must purge the evil from among you. In cases of infectious skin diseases, be careful to diligently follow everything the Levitical priests instruct you. Be careful to do as I have commanded them. Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the journey after you came out of Egypt. When you lend anything to your neighbor, do not enter his house to collect security. You are to stand outside while the man to whom you are lending brings the security out to you. If he is a poor man, you must not go to sleep with the security in your possession. Be sure to return it to him by sunset, so that he may sleep in his own cloak and bless you, and this will be credited to you as righteousness before the Lord your God. Do not oppress a hired hand who is poor and needy, whether he is a brother or a foreigner residing in one of your towns. You are to pay his wages each day before sunset, because he is poor and depends on them. Otherwise, he may cry out to the Lord against you, and you will be guilty of sin. Fathers shall not be put to death for their children, nor children for their fathers. Each is to die for his own sin. Do not deny justice to the foreigner or the fatherless, and do not take a widow's cloak as security. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you from that place. Therefore, I am commanding you to do this. If you are harvesting in your field and forget a sheaf there, do not go back to get it. It is to be left for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. When you beat the olives from your trees, you must not go over the branches again. What remains will be for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, you must not go over the vines again. What remains will be for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. Remember that you were slaves in the land of Egypt. Therefore I am commanding you to do this. If there is a dispute between men, they are to go to court to be judged, so that the innocent may be acquitted, and the guilty condemned. If the guilty man deserves to be beaten, The judge shall have him lie down and be flogged in his presence with the number of lashes his crime warrants. He may receive no more than 40 lashes, lest your brother be beaten any more than that, and be degraded in your sight. Do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain. When brothers dwell together, and one of them dies without a son, the widow must not marry outside the family. Her husband's brother is to take her as his wife, and fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law for her. The first son she bears will carry on the name of the dead brother, so that his name will not be blotted out from Israel. But if the man does not want to marry his brother's widow, she is to go to the elders at the city gate and say, "My husband's brother refuses to preserve his brother's name in Israel. He is not willing to perform the duty of a brother-in-law for me." Then the elders of his city shall summon him and speak with him. If he persists and says, "I do not want to marry her," his brother's widow shall go up to him in the presence of the elders, remove his sandal, spit in his face, and declare, "This is what is done to the man who will not maintain his brother's line." And his family name in Israel will be called the house of the unsandaled. If two men are fighting, and the wife of one steps in to rescue her husband from the one striking him, and she reaches out her hand and grabs his genitals, you are to cut off her hand. You must show her no pity. You shall not have two differing weights in your bag, one heavy and one light. You shall not have two differing measures in your house, one large and one small. You must maintain accurate and honest weights and measures, so that you may live long in the land that the Lord, your God, is giving you. For everyone who behaves dishonestly in regard to these things is detestable to the Lord your God. Remember what the Amalekites did to you along your way from Egypt, how they met you on your journey when you were tired and weary, and they attacked all your stragglers. They had no fear of God. When the Lord your God gives you rest from the enemies around you in the land that he is giving you to possess as an inheritance, you are to blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget.
Thank you for joining us. On Monday, we will continue reading the Book of Deuteronomy with pages 306 to 316. And then finally, on Tuesday, we will have completed the entire Book of Deuteronomy, which also means we will have completed Book 1, Past to Promise, in the Narrative Reading Bible collection. I'm so excited about the progress you've made thus far, and I'm even more excited about diving into Book 2. But for now, let's continue our reading of the Book of Deuteronomy, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care and God bless.